Okay, this is part 2 of my video movie pitch, script, and screenplay taken from my book entitled From McCartney Jackson, True Life Stories of My Musical Dealings with Paul McCartney and Michael Jackson. As I stated earlier, and this has been seen by Roger Corman, legendary producer Roger Corman, and reviewed by Roger Corman and Julie Corman of Concord New Horizons. And because of Roger's commitments, he was not able to do it at this very time, and I don't want to sit back for a year to a year and a half to get this major motion picture going. They'll make over $100 million. I've waited too long now, so that's why I'm coming to your company and other ones and pitching this movie script and screenplay, hit movie script and screenplay. Okay, we're going to pick it up. So I've flown out with with Eric Thompson after he's made me the offer of making the movie. So that's where I left off on number 1. So this is number 2. So we landed in LA. We're back at Paramount Pictures with Eric Thompson has put me with 2 screenplay and script writers with Paramount Pictures. So that's what the scene starts off. And they asked me, the 2 script and screenplay writers, Harold, start off and tell me your very first inclinations and your very first memories of anything to do with movies or anything that you remember. I said, well, at the tender age of 4 years old, I was already, a entrepreneur, because I remember, and my father died when I was young, so I had to make money any way I could. My mother was poor; we were all poor. So I remember she gave me for Christmas a handheld crank movie camera and with the cartoons. So in our old garage there off of the street, one of the main streets here where we lived at in San Antonio, we had an old garage, this old beat up garage, and it was pitch dark in there. On every weekend I used to invite all the kids in the neighborhood to come see my cartoons, and I would hand crank them back there, and it'd show on the back wall of the old garage, and they were, all the kids were excited, they're all young kids. So, and I'd hand crank them, and there was stuff like Tom and Jerry, Space Ghost, the Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, and all the Batman and all the superheroes and stuff. And so they were all excited. They clap, hand clap, and stuff like that, and everything. And so I would collect. Like, I'd charge them 5 cents per piece to see the movies on Saturday and Sunday every weekend. And so I was kind of proud of myself as a little kid like that. So I made enough money to get me some soda waters, pops and candy bars and stuff and all that. Even, as a matter of fact, my brothers and sisters even borrowed money from me as a youngster like that. Anyway, then after that, the scene fades. I'm telling the directors, and I said, no, but my real thing that I remember as far as like meeting anybody famous was in the year 1963, November 22nd, 1963. So it fades away from me sitting with the movie producers, and then on the screen pops up, it says November 22nd, 1963, San Antonio, Texas. And that's what it shows, and then all of a sudden it fades in, and Harold Hodges, young Harold Hodges, is only 7 years old. He's with his family in his family home there, and his mother tells him, look, Harold, you don't want to be late today. Put on your shoes and socks. You need to hurry up and get to school, because your teacher called me yesterday and said that you're going to be with your class today, and you're going to get the privilege of waving with all your class there on Broadway Street at President John F. Kennedy and everything. And back then it wasn't like today. It was way back in the 60s. We didn't have internet. We didn't have all these cable channels. We didn't have anything like that. So, it was exciting as a youngster that I was to see President Kennedy coming by and waving at me. So we were there, and I was with my best friend Bobby in school, and Bobby says, Harold, there comes President John F. Kennedy. Look, there he is. And so we're looking down the street, and here comes John F. Kennedy and his wife and all that in his motorcade, in the black convertibles that he traveled in. And so as he came by, he waved at me, and he was only like about 7 feet from me at the curb there, and I waved right in, and it looked like he was waving right at me, little young Harold waving at him. so we can use old film archive footage that should be in the archives that are under public domain, and we shouldn't have to even pay for that. So we can use old film footage of President Kennedy in the motorcade like that, because there's plenty of it. And then 2 hours later, he flew out of there, and I was so excited, and Bobby was, and our whole class. So we went back to school after that. And then 2 hours later, he flew to Dallas, and he was shot that very day, on that fateful day in Dallas, Texas, by that maniac. Shot him and killed him and everything. And so then I remember we were in school, and then our teacher came in the door, and the door cracked open a little bit, and it was our principal, and he was whispering something in our teacher's ear. And back then you only had one teacher, it wasn't lots of them. And she's all of a sudden burst out in tears, and we thought, what's wrong with Mrs. Johnson? You know, you're little kids, you know, it makes a big effect on you. And so, and then she said, class, we just now found out that President John F. Kennedy was just shot in Dallas 2 hours ago, after we just saw him here and waving at you kids. So all us kids were boo-hooing, and everybody was. So for 3 days, that's all we saw on national TV and worldwide TV and radio. Everything was President John F. Kennedy. It had never happened before, except for back in the 1800s. So it made a big impression on my life. Then I remember the whole country was in grief. The next thing I remember, 4 months later, in 1964, Here Comes the Beatles flew into John FK Airport and everything on February 9th. And I was sitting there with my family. Oh, look, there's the Beatles. And everybody was so excited, you know. It was a new movement of everything. Style, clothing, everything. It changed the way the whole world thought of rock and roll, of everything, you know. And then 2 days later, on that Sunday, they were on Ed Sullivan's show on the TV, and we're sitting around an old black and white TV show, TV set, and me and my 3 sisters and 1 older brother. And I remember telling my family, look, one of these days I'm going to grow up to be just like the Beatles, and I'm going to get to meet them, and I'm going to play guitar and sing just like those Beatles. And so, of course, later on I did follow in those footsteps, but we can use the old Ed Sullivan footage too for that scene. And you talk about hit movie. You talk about hit movie. This is going to be awesome, okay? We can use old film footage, everything else, and so it's going to be cool. And so after that, okay, then it jumps to 1989, where I have woke up from a dream, and I wrote a song entitled Be Beatles for John. And I told my wife, I said, you know what, this is awesome. And at that time, the Beatles had not, the 3 remaining Beatles had not come back together yet to do a comeback. And so I was the, you know, spearheaded that thing. So I called London, England, and we called and asked the movie producer, excuse me, the music director of the Capitol Radio in London, and he was where Paul did all his interviews and stuff, and we went ahead and sent it to him, and he was excited to get it, my Beatle tribute song, and so he got it, and he was nice enough to send it to Paul McCartney under his letterhead, because of course if I sent it, it'd come back. So then we got, 3 weeks later, we got a call from Paul McCartney, of all things, we didn't even know it, and we were in the bedroom watching the new movie at that time on VHS, of all things, if that doesn't date it, of Roger Rabbit. And so we were excited about that because it's first of those kind of films. And so anyway, Roger Rabbit, after we heard it ring, and I had 2 phones. One was my business line, had a different ring. That's a separate line. So I knew it was that, but it was 9:45 at night, and I didn't think, well, who could be calling? I said, it's probably your mother. I told my wife, probably your mother, calling you because she can't get us. So anyway, after Roger Rabbit, then we went in to hear the phone recorder, and I'm gonna start with pick it up from, this is number 2 of the video movie pitch. Number 2, I'll pick up the scene.